Podcast Answer Man, episode number 132. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and today I'm going to bring you an episode that is a little unique, something a little different than what you're used to. Typically in this show, I will play you several voicemail questions from the listening audience, and I will try to answer your questions. And, well, to be honest with you, I still have lots of those here. You can, of course, continue to submit your questions to area code 859-795-4067. But today I want to take a break from that and do something a little unique, a little different. And I just want to talk about something that I talked about a little while ago. And it was called podcasting with passion. You know, podcasting your passion. And I've been thinking about this. And I've been looking around, and it's amazing to me to see just how busy my life has become as a result of pursuing my passion. One of the things that I've noticed for a very long time is that people say that they feel drawn to the type of stuff that I do and to the podcast that they listen to, that I produce. They're drawn to it because of my passion that I have, that I share for, you know, this passion that I have for what it is that I'm talking about. Oftentimes, people will say, you know what, I listen to you talk about things that I particularly don't have passion about myself, but I love to hear the way you talk about it. You know, you talk about it with such passion that sometimes I find myself getting excited about the things that you're excited about. And that's really what I want to talk about a little bit more today. But before talking about it, I want to say thank you to Eric Fisher. Eric Fisher is a good friend of mine. He's been a GSPN.TV community member for, gosh, I don't know how long now. But anyway, he basically, I'm going to hit pause there. He sent me over an email not too long ago. In fact, it was just back on, it was 3 days ago. And he says, hey, Cliff, this is a really great video. It's about passion and selling. It's 12 minutes long, but worth it. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh goodness, here's an email with a YouTube link in it. It's like, by the way, here's this 12-minute video about passion and selling. And I'm thinking, okay, really? Seriously? Am I going to be interested in this? And here's what ran through my mind is that as I heard this is going to be some guy like kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk saying, everybody, get all excited. You got to have passion. And if you want to sell, you got to have passion. And that's really what I thought that I was going to get when I clicked on this video. But wow, it's not what I got. In fact, what I got was so much better. In fact, I want to invite you guys, if I'm going to play some audio from this thing here for a little bit. And by the way, this topic has nothing to do with podcasting. As far as what he's going to be talking about in this video, it has nothing to do with technology, but it has everything to do with what I really believe is at the heart of what will make you a successful podcaster, and that is finding your passion. Finding your passion. If you want to see this video at any point in time, I'm not going to play the whole 12 minutes here, but I'm going to play about 5 minutes of it. At least. And I just want you to hear this guy talk. By the way, the video can be found at gspn.tv/sodapop. Seriously, it's gspn.tv/sodapop. Sodapop being one word. All right, now the audio that you're about to hear is as a guy who owns a retail store, a brick and mortar retail store. And in the store, he sells nothing but soda pop. That's it. And not your typical, run-of-the-mill RC Cola, Pepsi, Coke, and, 7-Up and stuff like that. These are all very unique varieties of soda pop. And almost, I think every one of them is in glass bottles. So if you've ever gone into a store and you see a Jones Cola or something like that, just imagine like 1,000 different varieties of soda pops or sodas, and that's what he has in the store. Now, this guy is not a super eloquent speaker. He doesn't have the appearance of somebody who is going to wow you with his, he's not going to impress you with his great physique or his looks or anything like that. I mean, he's not an ugly guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to paint that picture. But I want to set the stage here to have you understand this is just a normal, average guy. But he's not normal and he's not average, because this is a guy who found his passion in life and who is pursuing that passion. And see, that I guess maybe he's not a normal average guy. But when it comes to maybe his ability to just speak or share or whatever, I mean, it's nothing really powerful. It's not like he's taken classes on how to give a speech and really to motivate you and inspire you. But Eric Fisher was right. It was worth every single bit. Matter of fact, it's 13 minutes long. It's 12 minutes, 58 seconds. It was worth every single minute that I spent watching it the 3 times that I've watched this video. Now, this isn't a video that changed my life, but I'm sitting here wondering, why on earth first of all, why in the world did I listen to the entire 13 minutes of this guy talking about soda pops? I have no interest in soda pops. I really don't. And then I had to ask myself, why did I watch this a second time? And then I had to ask myself, why did I watch this a third time? And why is it every single time that I sent a link to somebody, I actually pulled it up just to make sure that the link worked? And why did I watch the first 5 minutes each time? Because this guy has something that is he's got an attraction about him. And what is it that attracts me to what he's talking about? It's his passion and his love for what he does. So I just want you to sit back. I want you to hopefully clear away all distractions for just a moment and just have a listen to the audio of this very plain Jane YouTube video that really motivated me and got me excited. So here you go.
When I was about 8 or 9 years old, we went on a family vacation up to a place called Happy Camp. They had a spring, and this water had natural carbonated water. And I could remember as a little kid thinking about that spring and said, if we could pipe this down to my school, when we turned on the water spigots, we could get soda, and I could have different flavors of soda. I wouldn't have to drink the water that I drink. I went to work with my father when I was 5 years old. Galco's itself goes back to the roots is 1897. About 10, 11 years ago, the Pepsi-Cola salesman came in, and he said, I got the best buy you're ever going to get on a pallet of Pepsi-Cola cans. I'm only going to charge you $5.59 a case. And I said, thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to send my customers down the street to Ralph's because they're going to be on sale down there for $1.99 a 12-pack. And he says, well, you can't do that. Pepsi-Cola is a demand item, and your customers are going to demand that you carry Pepsi-Cola. And I said, my customers are going to be happy I was honest with them and send them down the street. They can buy them cheaper than I can buy them. And after 2 weeks of really being upset, I said, thank you very much, Pepsi-Cola, for reminding me that I own my shelf space and I can do anything I want. So I immediately went out and found 25 little brands of soda. Gee whiz, they were still in glass bottles, and I put them on the shelf. And people would come in and look at them and say, what are you doing with all those old things that don't sell? And when I got to 250, it's where you're finding them. So now we have about 500 different sodas. If you're going to get a root beer, the one that's hardest to find is the Red Ribbon because it's made with the bark of sassafras. If you're looking for a lemon lime, try the Bubble Up. It's still made with lemon and lime oils. The Manhattan Special, the company that makes the coffee soda, they've been making coffee soda since 1895. The same family in Brooklyn. They roast the coffee beans, they brew it, they bottle it. A little 10-year-old kid, he comes running in, he says, where's that cucumber soda you made me buy? And I'm laughing. I mean, I thought it was pretty funny. A little kid asking for a cucumber soda. They don't drink cucumber. They don't drink vegetables. I mean, people say, well, you're here and you're working all the time. And I'm saying, I don't work. I just play all day long. I come in and play. It's flavored water with a lot of bubbles. But if I were going to define it in one word, I'd say happy. Or smile. By the way, you should taste it. What do you guys want? People come in here and they look around and they said, well, this is overwhelming. I didn't know there was this many flavors of soda. What really has happened is It's given exposure to little bottlers that they've never had before. We just picked up another independent bottler. They've been bottling since 1926. The mother, the daughter, and 2 brothers bottle. Those floral sodas, the fellow calls me, "You got to carry my sodas. I'm from Romania. We still know how to press the rose petals." And he said, "I'm going to send you samples." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I'm thinking perfume. Wow. Crisp, clean rose soda. The American public has never been exposed to anything like that before. We bought the Total Run. They're not available anywhere else in the United States. And so I said, "Illy, what else do you make?" "Well, I have a cucumber. But the problem is that nobody will give me a chance." So we commissioned a run of the cucumber. First lady comes in. "Oh, this isn't what I was expecting at all. It's actually very good." When the American public has the choice, they're going to buy it. They're going to try it. The way a product goes in a glass bottle is the way it comes out. Everything is overcarbonated in plastic because it starts breathing, and it has about a 4-month shelf life, so they get flat as they go along. But when you put something in a glass bottle, I will tell you, the caps are so technologically advanced that the way it goes in is the way it comes out 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Have you ever picked up an old glass bottle?
Oh, wow, heavy.
That'll hold carbonation. The bottles today are very thin glass, and if they have a weak spot in them, they'll explode if you put too much carbonation in them. You could drop these and they'll actually bounce. They won't break. I mean, I've dropped them and they just, boom, they don't break. Talk about reusable.
They asked, are there any good
Most
diet sodas?
Diet sodas are really pretty bad. I mean, they just don't taste good. There's been a few that have come out. Stewart's Black Cherry Diet is probably the finest diet black cherry I've ever tasted. There's Jones has a diet green apple that's very good. And then there's Sprecher's, which has a low-cal root beer, which has like 11 calories. And it's not a true diet, but it's low enough if you're watching calories. But other than those 3 or 4 or 5, most diet sodas, drink less. How's that? Drink 6 ounces rather than 12. And you get 60 calories versus 120 calories. And then you're satisfied and you're happy. Everything prepared in this country has corn syrup in it. And it's totally unnecessary. The largest single crop in the world is cane sugar. It's larger than corn and wheat put together. It takes 3 times less sugar to sweeten with than it does corn syrup. I mean, take a look around at the diabetes. You'll never get an allergy from sugar. You're going to get an allergy because there's a spore in corn syrup that cannot be refined out. And people have allergies to corn products. So why would you use corn as a sweetener? We have some, yes, the Stewart's, the IBCs, and the Crush. They're contract bottled, and they're done in glass, but they're done with corn syrup for the supermarkets primarily. We carry them because they don't come any other way. Once a year, Coca-Cola makes a kosher Coke just before Passover. The kosher one will be cane sugar. It'll have a yellow cap. It'll have a U in the upper left-hand corner with a circle around it, and the label will still say corn syrup. It won't be changed. Try the two side by side and then tell me. The one with the cane sugar just goes pop, and it explodes, and the flavor just wham, it's delicious. And the one with the corn syrup is like...
There you go. All right, so basically, you can get a feel for this, and I encourage you to go watch the whole 13 minutes over at just go to gspn.tv/sodapop, and it'll take you right there. I hope that you understand why I'm playing this on Podcast Answer Man, because this is a guy who, if he were to come to me and say, "Hey, Cliff, I want to start a podcast," clearly his podcast should be the Soda Popcast. I mean, that is what I would call. I would even have him call it the Soda Popcast. Would I subscribe to his podcast? I don't know. But you know what? I may, especially with the way that he talks about it. He talks with conviction. He talks with as somebody who knows his subject intimately. I mean, the fact that he knows that Coca-Cola once a year creates a kosher version of their product, and that the label doesn't actually change, but if you look at the cap, it's got a U with a circle around it. And I mean, just the guy just has passion, and you can tell he's not super eloquent in his speech. And again, if you see the video, he doesn't look like anybody out of the normal. But there are a couple different things. Number one, what I found about this guy that I really like is that he is so clearly focused. He is very focused. He has found a passion. It would appear to me that this store, actually, now that I look at it, watch the video again, that this guy sells more than just soda pops, okay, in his store. But the fact is that he's clearly focused on a passion that he has, and so much that I love what he says. It's like, listen, I had the Pepsi guy come and says, listen, I'm going to sell this case to you, for this a price per case. And he's like, listen, now, you know what? If people want that kind of soda, I'm going to send them down the road. It's cheaper down there because, they buy a whole lot more of your stuff than I will. And I'll just send them down there. And it's like, well, you can't do that. It's like, I love how he says it. Listen, thank you, Pepsi, for reminding me, that I own my shelves, and that I choose what goes on my shelf. And I love that, and that's the same thing that I've been doing with Podcast Answer Man, not just the podcast, but the business, my consulting business is like, somebody says, well, gosh, Cliff, why do you brand yourself as the Podcast Answer Man? Don't you think you're missing out on work for people who might be willing to hire you to help them with YouTube videos and how to get into Facebook fan pages and how to effectively use Twitter? And it's like, well, yeah, you know what? I know how to do those things. And I do consult my clients who I bring in as podcasters, but my passion is podcasting. My passion is doing what I'm doing. This is, and as a result of that, people say, if you need anything in podcasting, the person you need to talk to is Cliff Ravenscraft. Whereas if somebody asks them, hey, I'm looking for some help, do you know any consultants out there for new media? Well, you probably, Cliff Ravenscraft probably isn't the first person that comes to mind. But podcasting, I'm hoping that Cliff Ravenscraft is pretty darn high up on the list of most people who might be asked that question. And so definitely love the focus there. I mean, the fact that he started this out with just a handful of different flavors and varieties of sodas, and now all of a sudden he's got over 500 varieties of sodas. He's got standards. He only takes bottled sodas. I love the fact that he supports other small businesses. The fact that he's got, I'm working with this one company, and it's basically the mom, the dad, and the child, and these people bottled. This is what they do. I love that he found he's like, oh my gosh, this is really good. And he sanctioned that. He says, I bought the entire run. I am the only place in the United States that you can buy this soda. I mean, this is a guy who clearly is driven by passion. And again, the purpose of playing this is to say, okay, so you're thinking about a podcast. So you're doing a podcast. Are you experiencing burnout? If so, are you really podcasting about what you're most passionate about? That's the thing. I'm at the point now where at the end of today, I'm almost at 1,800 episodes now. And people say, Cliff, how do you podcast so much? How do you normally on Thursdays is when I record, with the exception of this past week and this coming week. But normally I podcast on Thursdays from like 6 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening, recording 11 podcast episodes back to back. How do I do that? It's because I have passion for the topics of which I podcast about. And there are times when I have passion for a topic, and then over time that passion subsides. And when that passion subsides, continuing the production of that particular podcast becomes not something enjoyable, but it becomes a chore. And when podcasting becomes a chore, it's time to reconsider the continuation of that podcast. And there are 2 podcasts right now that are just kind of on indefinite hiatuses. The Heroes Fan Podcast, the Private Practice Fan Podcast, those are on indefinite hiatuses. We've also launched some other podcasts in the past, the Bionic Woman, the Dancing with the Stars, and those shows clearly in our minds became immediate flops after we started and launched those shows. And it's like, you know what? We just don't have enough passion to drive these shows. Now, you know what? Are there people out there that love those shows? Yeah. Is there a potential for us to gain an audience of another 10 to 15,000 people as a result of doing that podcast? Yeah. But are we going to wow them? Probably not. You know, if I'm doing a podcast for the wrong motives, which is to just get my name out there, you know, that is not going to do it. But, you know, finding what you're passionate about, something that drives you, is something that I certainly suggest. And so the Soda Pop guy, I really believe that this is something that is worthwhile. Go and watch the video. Something else I want to tell you about as a podcaster. As a consultant, I've been using this, and it's radically changed my life. Which, by the way, if you head over to businesstechweekly.com, that's businesstechweekly.com. Look for episode number 5 of that podcast, and it should be something like Tungle Calendar Scheduling or something like that. But Tungle is a service that I've been using recently that has drastically changed my life throughout the week. It has caused me to be able to fill my schedule so much more with work that is, you know, basically brought in a lot of extra money each week as a result of using this. So what Tungle is it's a service that syncs with whatever calendar service that you have, and it will allow people to see your free times. You know, if you've got something planned on your schedule, then it shows that you're not available at that time. But any other time that you don't have clients or appointments scheduled on your calendar, it shows as free, and people can suggest times. They can create a meeting suggestion. It says, I'd like to meet you to discuss such and such. And then they would choose 2 or 3 different times that would work for them based upon what I have. And it emails me and says, hey, so-and-so is proposing a meeting. And it says, choose from the available times. And so I can see the 2 different, or sometimes they only choose one spot, which is cool. But I see what they chose, and I see that it's open on my schedule, and I think about it. Which one of these works best for me? And I choose the one that works best for me. Then the service emails them back, and it says, you've been scheduled. The meeting is confirmed. It puts it on my calendar automatically. Absolutely awesome. If you want to hear more about this service, I did an entire podcast with my friend Andy Traub. He and I interviewed the CEO of the startup of this company. Check it out. That's at businesstechweekly.com, episode number 5. All right. Next up, I want to read to you an email that I got. Somebody sent me an email saying, hey, I've got an interesting question for you. I have a PR client, and I've been helping them with their podcast. They got an email message from someone in Russia who would like to subscribe to their podcast via the Russian version of iTunes, but the podcast isn't listed. Number one, I had no idea there was Russian iTunes. This is a continuation of the email. Number one, I had no idea there was a Russian version of iTunes. And number two, could the fact that the podcast is tagged as English be the reason that it's not listed? So here's basically the answers to those questions. First of all, several different geographic regions around the world, usually built around the different languages, have their own version of iTunes. So, for example, let's just take Podcast Answer Man. I've got my podcast successfully, and then of course Keith's in the chat room. He says yes, there are about 70 different stores. So anyway, I've got my Podcast Answer Man, and all the other shows successfully listed in iTunes. Now, I don't have to go into the Russian version to put my show in there as well. So with that being said, it should propagate through all of them. So once you're submitted and approved in iTunes, it should make it to all of them with no problem at all. I've never had anybody in Australia or Germany or in the UK, all over the world, people are listening to our podcast and are subscribed via iTunes, and they found us in iTunes. So I know that I'm in all those stores. A couple different things to note here is that if I have, let's just say 30 reviews in iTunes, The people in Germany do not see the reviews that are left in the American store. And if like 10 of my listeners from Germany were to go in and put a review on iTunes, I will not see that in my US store. So there are some things that don't transfer back and forth between those. And again, usually it's because of language reasons or what have you. But I don't know that I actually tagged any of my podcast with a language. But I suppose that it's possible that it's built in. English is built into the tag somewhere. But no, that alone that will not get you to where you're not showing up. So I haven't heard back from this person, but the first question I had is, it sounds to me like they're just now helping this person get started out. And so it sounds, one of the possible reasons here could be that the podcast was just submitted, and it's showing up in the iTunes store in the US right now, but it may take maybe another day or so to show up in all the various other versions of the store. Now, whether or not Russia actually blocks any or English speaking only podcast, or where it's not written in Russian, the descriptions aren't written in Russian, I doubt that. I've never heard anything like that before, and to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure how many podcasts are going to be out there in Russian, but I'm sure that they're out there. So I know that people, at least in Germany and Sweden and Norway and Australia and Thailand and Qatar. I mean, people all over the world are finding our content, and I know that I didn't do anything other than put myself into the normal iTunes that I have here in the U.S. store. So it goes there. So that could be one of them, that it just hasn't propagated yet. The other thing I noticed is I had a client about 2 months ago, MediaWeekPodcasts.com. That's plural. MediaWeekPodcasts.com. Let me just check, make sure that's right. MediaWeekPodcast.com. Yeah. So this person, this client hired me. They're in, I think, Melbourne, Australia. And here, I'll play a little bit of the audio from their show.
MediaWeek.com.au. This is Media Week's TV industry podcast, recorded at MCM Studios. Okay, welcome to another week. We have some great special guests today. In fact, James, one of the guests we're waiting for is in a taxi on the way to the MCM studios here. Of course, that's Richard Clune, and he works for the Sunday Telegraph, so he'll be rushing into the podcast today. But we have Vesna, who's the editor of TV Soap, in the studio today. How are you going, Vesna?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very good. The new edition just came out.
Yeah, this is our 25th birthday collector's issue, just out on the newsstands.
Stop it. Can't have been 25 years. Come on.
I know, it makes me feel so ancient. 25 years, and I think I've been there on and off for about 19. So
Really?
All right. So anyway, this is a client in Australia that hired me because when James first contacted me, he says, Cliff, I've got a problem. People in the U.S. are telling me that they're able to subscribe to my show, but there's something going that's a little wonky here in our Australian version of the iTunes store. It's just not, there are no podcast episodes listed here, and when I subscribe, it's not downloading. So there's some major issues, and I was perplexed. It was the first time I ever noticed where it's showing up in it's showing up here in the U.S. store, but it's not showing anything in the Australian store. And the problem that James had was that the server that they were on had like a 30-second delay, so it was basically timing out. And it just so happened, I guess maybe that when the iTunes store pinged it last, it basically had caught it just, I guess, at a good time. And before the iTunes store timed out, it actually showed the most recent episodes up to that point. Now, when that happened, it worked, but when any other time that I tried to load it up anywhere else, this thing was timing out. It took at least 30 to 90 seconds at time, and pretty much anything timed out, trying to get anything to come off the server that they were on. So all we did is we moved them over to Bluehost, and I set that up, created their WordPress, and then they hired me to take, I think they had like 35 episodes total between 4 different podcasts. And I ported all of that information from the place where they were into a new WordPress installation. and created separate feeds for all the different categories, which is something they didn't have before. And then, of course, I made them an all-inclusive feed, and they hired me to do just a basic redesign of the site. And so I think it was like a 14-hour project altogether, or maybe a 6 to 10 hour. I can't remember, but I remember spending about 2 days, a good portion of 2 different days working on this account. And it was a lot of fun. I loved it, by the way. That's why I love. That's the other thing about the Soda Guy. What do you say? Listen, I don't work. I play all day long. That's exactly how I feel. I mean, except for when I have to do accounting work. Then I'm working, and it really sucks. But anyway, outside of the accounting stuff, I do. I come in, I play all day. And sure, there are times, this product here, gosh, I remember staying up one night until 4 o'clock in the morning trying to just do this stuff, because it was pretty much just standard copy paste from one installation over to the other, and it was just moving and reformatting some things. So it was kind of like thoughtless, brainless, mundane work, but I was still enjoying it. It was centered around my passion. It's getting somebody up and running. And as soon as we moved them over to Bluehost and I had all the feeds set up and everything, then I actually resubmitted it to iTunes in the U.S. And within 2 days, it was in the U.S. store, and it was also in the Australian store. I went in and had the old feeds removed, and everything's up and running. So that was a way that I solved that. Now, let's just say, it sounds to me like from this email that I had received, that the client is probably somebody here in the U.S., but somebody in Russia wants to subscribe to the podcast, and it's just not showing up in their store for some reason. Well, let me just tell you that it's very simple. All you have to do is email them back and give them these instructions, and it's something that you may not even have to write. Well, you'd have to write it to them, but this is what you do. You basically open iTunes. Up in the menu, there's a section that says Advanced. And then when you click on Advanced, it'll pull down a little drop-down menu, and it'll say Subscribe to Podcast. All they need to do is take your RSS feed and plug it in there, and boom, it will subscribe them immediately to your podcast, and it doesn't matter if you're in the iTunes store there or not. So that's another way to handle this. And even furthermore, and I'm still surprised how many people don't know this, but then again, it makes sense. I mean, not everybody eats, sleeps, dreams, and everything else podcast. So it's understandable. But if you go to podcastanswerman.com, do this for me. Seriously, next time you go there, go to podcastanswerman.com. I'm pulling it up now myself just to confirm that this is the way I have it set up. If you look over on the right-hand menu of my sidebar, at the bottom, you'll see a little section where it says Podcast Answer Man Podcast. Over 100 hours of content related to podcasting. Subscribe today and receive regular updates. And then there's 2 little graphics there. One says subscribe with iTunes. The other one says subscribe with RSS. The image that says subscribe with RSS is just a direct link to my FeedBurner feed for the Podcast Answer Man. However, and if you hover over that, if you have the little status bar at the bottom of the screen and you just hover over that image, you can see that it shows that link actually would take you to feeds2.feedburner.com/PAM or PAM. If you hover over the one that says iTunes, you'll notice it almost looks identical, except that it is a hyperlink not starting with http:// but instead it starts with ITPC / iTunes Protocol is what it stands for, ITPC. So if you create an image that says subscribe with iTunes, and you make that image link to ITPC / and then the rest of your feed, taking out the http:// by the way, then what will happen is when somebody who has iTunes clicks on that, it will open up iTunes automatically, and it will immediately subscribe them to that podcast. They don't have to do anything else other than click that one button. So yeah, so there you go. There are a bunch of different ways that you can subscribe to that podcast. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up a little bit now. I know that I told you that today was going to be just a little unique, a little different. if you guys want to find out what's going on, why an abbreviated show, why am I recording on Saturday this weekend and next weekend, all that other stuff, I encourage you to check out some of the other shows I produce. In fact, there's Pursuing a Balanced Life over at pursuingabalancedlife.com. You can check out the most recent episode, which I'm going right now to tell you what episode number that is. Pursuing a Balanced Life, episode number 438. Also, head over to familyfromtheheart.com. Episode 81 has some exciting things that are going on. We talked about today, we gave some movie reviews. We reviewed the movie Where the Wild Things Are, and also the movie Amelia, about Amelia Earhart. Had a special press screening for that. Really enjoyed it. And the last thing that I want to tell you, again, make sure you check out gspn.tv/sodapop. And, find your passion and podcast about that. And when you podcast about your passion, you don't have to be super eloquent. Your passion will shine through. It will speak for itself. And so I encourage you to do that. And then, of course, something I mentioned at the end of last week's show is that I'm hoping to, well, first of all, I am increasing my rates on November 1st. It is official. My new rates will be $150 an hour. So I'm going from $95 an hour to $150 an hour. That starts effective November 1st. My schedule's all booked up until then. So anybody that's interested, that is my new hourly rate. And I imagine that that's probably going to thin my schedule out the next couple weeks. So, which is actually a good thing. I've actually been working way too much recently. Yes, I know that I just said that it's all playing for me, and it is. But there are some things that I've needed to get done around here that I just haven't had time to do. And one of the things that I've been wanting to do desperately is to create some products for sale that you can download and buy, such as video training materials, such as the behind the scenes of how what my workflow looks like to record a podcast from beginning to end, how to record or how to do a podcast with co-hosts in different locations. Those kind of training tutorials, both of those ideas, by the way, have come up from you guys. I have a whole list of ideas for different products coming through now. And if you want to see what the current product wish list is and you want to add to the wish list, I encourage you to check out gspn.tv/product wish list. Again, that's gspn.tv/product wish list. And let me know what it is that you would want me to put together as a training video, something that you would find useful, because chances are if you'd find it useful, so would others. And of course, that's what I'm trying to do, trying to find a way to earn a little bit more passive income, because my desire is to pursue a balanced life. I want to spend a little bit more of my evenings and weekends with this awesome family that God has blessed me with. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast Answer Man. And until next time, everybody, join the community. God bless. Bye-bye.